Is it fine for me to start the video with a couple minutes of stunned, horrified silence? Because that's really the only response to Kamen Rider Club. I thought I was going to be recording a video about a really bad platformer, and it is so much worse than that. Kamen Rider Club is well known in Japan for being effectively unplayable. Playing normally, it takes roughly 6 hours to complete the game. There are no passwords, and there are no continues. The speed runs of Kamen Rider Club take over 2 hours. Kamen Rider is a franchise of live-action superhero shows in Japan. I've only ever seen one episode myself. You can actually watch all of the original series at this website, but for some reason I just have no time to watch anything these days. The premise of the show is that the evil organization Shocker has kidnapped a super genius biochemist motorcycle enthusiast and turned him into a super-powered cyborg. Before they can brainwash him to their side, he escapes and begins fighting Shocker as Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider Club uses that series, plus the 2 sequel series that follow it. There's a lot more Kamen Rider than just those, but they're not part of the game. When you start the game, you're given the choice of Kamen Rider 1, 2, or version 3. You have to play through a set of 4 stages with each of them on their own. Then you play through a set of 4 stages with them as a group. That gets you to the final area where you complete a set of 7 stages. The goal of every stage is not to get to the end or defeat a boss, it's to make money. At the end of the stage you'll encounter a door, and if you have enough money, you stand on this platform and it opens. Initially it takes about 20,000 yen to open a door. Toward the end of the game, it takes over 1 million. The maximum amount of yen you can get at one time, and this is pretty rare, is 5,000. And that's why the game takes 6 hours to complete. Once you understand that, it becomes just a matter of walking back and forth and grinding up cash. Except walking back and forth isn't easy. And I'm being literal there. Reversing directions sometimes just makes your riders stumble and get stuck in place. You have to either not press anything, or press in the direction that they're stumbling to make it stop. Jumping has a similar problem. I guess the best way to put it is, jumping doesn't work right. You can jump straight up, all 3 characters have different vertical jump heights, and you can try to jump to one side. You don't have a lot of control over this movement though, and when you collide with a surface, you just kind of stick there. You have to tap the jump button over and over again, and eventually you'll cling to the surface and be able to climb up. And you have to use that to get any vertical distance, even just 1 block. Watch out for the ceiling when you jump. If you hit it, you get squished and can't do anything for a few seconds. When you attack in these action scenes, you just throw your punch downward for some reason. You can't attack forward, just punch down. Be careful about punching the ground though. If you do it, you'll get stunned for a few seconds. So if you see an enemy, you can jump over them and start hitting punch. Pressing punch makes you stop in the air though, so you can kind of hover in place indefinitely while you do that. If you contact an enemy, they may turn into cash. And just so you know, single bills are more valuable than the bags of cash. If you miss an enemy with a punch, then they'll hurt you. Now that may sound like an intuitive result, but it really isn't in this game. Because what's supposed to happen when you connect with an enemy is you go into an RPG-style battle. In this mode, you can select to attack, use a technique, use an item, or run away. I never managed to acquire any techniques. You have to purchase them in stores, and they're very expensive. When you attack an enemy, it goes to this action segment where you mash the A button to build up power to push the enemy back. There's a bug in this segment though. If you connect with an enemy when you're at full power, your power gets reset to 0. So if you're not using an auto-fire controller, the optimal strategy is to remain at 1 step below full power. If you shove the enemy all the way back into the far wall, then they take some damage. This process takes about 10 to 15 seconds, and each round of the shoving battle takes 30 seconds. If an enemy isn't defeated by one round of shoving, you just keep going at it until time runs out. Higher level enemies can do things like throw knives at you during those shoving matches, and there's not a thing you can do about it. Fighting the enemy in these RPG battles will eventually level the character up, but it takes a lot of battles to do that. I never managed to level up any of them. The items you can use in battle have to be purchased in stores. There are two types of stores: vending machines that accept cash, and markets that require that you use your debit card. Your debit card doesn't have any cash on it, so before you can buy things from the market, you have to find a bank and put money onto your debit card. Does this sound like a needlessly complicated extra step to you? Did I mention that all of the locations are randomized and reset when you go off the screen? So that box with a yen marker may be a market right now, but go off the screen and come back, and it might become a bank. Or it could take you forever to find a bank and you just keep getting into markets. Besides the boxes with the yen mark, you could find crosses for hospitals, and this blank one, which is a shop that will buy items back from you. So you've been hurt and you need to heal. Well, you could try to find a hospital, but those are pretty rare. So instead you can smash bricks open and look for a power-up. And if you find one of these pinwheels, that's the healing item. And the way it works is that you blow into the microphone on the second player controller, and how long you can continuously blow determines how many hit points back you get. Playing on an AV Famicom like I am? Well, you just don't get to heal then. There's other special power-ups that can be found in those bricks. You could get your rider's motorcycle, and then not be able to do anything because the jumping is so bad that you have to use the cling and scramble technique to get over anything. Or you could find this, which gives you a shadow clone. The shadow clone doesn't seem to be doing anything, but if you had somebody else who was sitting around just watching you play for 6 hours, they could pick up the second player controller then and control that character, which only lasts a limited amount of time. So I think it's pretty obvious that I made zero progress in this game. I never could level anyone up, and I never could gather enough cash before dying to reach the end of a stage. I did find out that Kamen Rider version 3 far outclasses the other two in terms of abilities, but you still have to use 1 and 2 if you want to complete the game. The only effective way to complete the game is to gamble, and I never found any of the casinos, but what it comes down to is you can play roulette, and shouting into the microphone on the second player controller rigs the game in the player's favor. Using the casinos and cheating like that is the only way that people have ever been able to complete Kamen Rider Club in a timely fashion. Every single thing in Kamen Rider Club makes me want to grab the designers by the shoulders and shake them while screaming, "Why would you do this?" It's one of the most intensely infuriating games I've played on the Famicom. I haven't even gotten into why Kamen Rider 1's stages are cake-based, while the other two actually have stages that resemble something like a shocker base. Nothing in this game makes sense. Not one bit of it. Kamen Rider Club is a game that's designed to hurt people. And I'm not being hyperbolic there. They want you to play for over 6 hours, they want you to scream into the microphone continuously, they want you to have another player standing by not doing anything until the right moment occurs, and if you screw up at all, they want you to redo the whole thing from the start. This is a hateful game. I'm used to TOSE and Bandai releasing terrible games on the Famicom, but Kamen Rider Club is a step beyond anything that they have done.